Hey guys, it's Andrew Esquivel here, back with another review slash tutorial slash informational video for you. Today we're going to be talking about external antennas and how they go along with your cell phones like the Galaxy S4. Now, there's a lot to go over and there's a lot of very important information that you really need to know before you even consider getting one of these. So if you're going to bear with me here, you're going to learn a lot. First off, not every Galaxy S4 is the same. For instance, over here I have a T-Mobile Galaxy S4. Now the ports that we use to connect the antenna to are this little guy right here and this little guy down here. Now one thing to note, R1 is what it's labeled for up here. That's supposed to be for 3G connections and L1 is supposed to be for 4G connections. I've seen documentation stating that it's different for different versions of the phone. And over here we have a Sprint Galaxy S4 tri-band. Notice there's only one of these ports and R1 is down here instead of up here. So there's different ways the phone communicates with the antenna. In the tri-band version, R1 is the connection that you would use to connect to your antenna for 4G connections. So things work a little differently across manufacturers. Another thing to note, and I want to make sure you all know this before you do anything, is these little adapters have tiny little metal pins inside of them that connect to these R1 and L1 ports. Now, if for whatever reason you plug those connections in too deeply, or you for some reason use your own wire to try and make your own antenna, you stick it in there, you could permanently damage your phone. There's a connection in here that will cut off the connection from the internal antenna in order to make a connection with the external antenna. And if you push in too hard, you'll break that connection and only be able to use external antennas for the rest of your phone's life. Now, I've seen documentation stating other ways that the phone deals with internal and external antennas. One way was suggesting that the phone simply chooses between internal or external antennas based on which antenna was getting a better signal. I have used this for a little bit now, and I've been doing a lot of experimentation. We'll get to this eventually, but you got to be super careful. These connections are not super secure. You don't want to move them so that they're tilting in any manner. You want to be very gentle with them. If you screw it up, there's really not much you can do other than taking off all the plates, and there's a point in here where you can resolder the connection if you're feeling like being a technician on your phone. I've also read that using these may void your warranty. There's a lot of mishmashed information on the internet about this concept, and it even goes so far as to suggest that these ports were only designed for Samsung to test the internal antennas. So information is very hard to figure out. I'm going to attempt to clear up as much of that as possible. Even though these ports were designed for Samsung to test the antennas, supposedly they're also there in case you want to use external antennas. The external antenna concept is simply trying to get a better signal, especially in rural areas, or increasing your upload and download speed on your network by getting a better signal. Instead of 4 bars, maybe you get 5. We're going to go over that with it connected, and you're going to see the difference between the internal and the external antennas. So what we're going to be doing is using the Galaxy S4 for the T-Mobile instead of the Sprint. So we're going to take the Sprint, put it on the side over here. And first off, we need to start the phone up because we need to get some benchmarks, some differences. We need to know what kind of signal we're getting from the phone without the antennas in the first place in order to see if it's even worth having the antenna. Because these things are big and bulky, you don't carry them with you. They're actually magnetic on the bottom, so they're designed for you to stick on the top of your car. And I have driven with this on the top of my car. I was going about 45 miles an hour or so. And this little bending point is also there so you can stick it on the wall somewhere that has a metal plating like a door or something like that. And get you a long distance, because in theory, this antenna is super long. You can put it somewhere where it'll get a better signal than where you're sitting. But anywho, now that we've got the phone started up, let's go ahead and open one of my applications here for testing network signal. Now, we're not going to get into too much technical detail, but let's take a look at the meter here. Now look at this number right here that says that is over dBm. Long story short, the smaller that number is, or the closer to zero because it's all negative, so the smaller that number is, the better your signal is. Right now it's at about 110, but I've seen it go as far down as to 105 in my area. Now, signal strength is purely circumstantial. You can have a great signal in one spot of your house and a terrible signal in the other spot, or it could be across town, what have you. So we're going to try and do everything from this spot right here and make sure it's as reliable and accurate information as possible. So, okay, 19 dBm. Next, we're going to go to speed test by Ookla, and we're going to see what speeds we can get with this signal. So I'm going to choose my own server, and we're going to begin the test. So we have an average up or download speed of 15.33 megabits per second. Remember, there's 8 bits in a byte, so 8 megabits in a megabyte as well. And 3.96 megabits per second upload. So with that being said, we now have our benchmark. Now what we're going to do is plug the external antennas in and see what difference we get. And I don't believe you should have to turn the phone off to plug it in, but I'm going to do it anyway just so we get a clean slate for this test. Okay, so we have the phone connected into the L1 port, and you'll notice I've only connected one of the connections into the L1 port. The reason for that is I do not believe you were supposed to have 2 connections on this antenna at the same time. Despite the fact that it came with it, I've noticed through my own trial and error that connecting only one of the connections to L1 seems to yield better results. However, we're going to test both with one by itself, both at the same time, and one in the R1 port instead of the L1 port. So let's turn on the phone, go back to the same application we were using before for signal strength, and we're going to compare to what we had before. So looking at it here, we have got 109 dBm, which is more or less around the same spot, 110, and no matter what, that is going to fluctuate a little bit. That's just how it is when you're dealing with cell networks, because wireless technology can be affected by so many things: the distance from the cell tower, how many people are active on that cell tower, the rooms around you, what the rooms and walls are made of, etc. So, like I said, everything is very circumstantial. So we see our signal strength is about the same, and we're going to go back over to Ookla speed test, and I'm going to make sure I select the same server. So I go into settings, change server, and yep, I have the same server. So we're going to begin the test. The test is done. We averaged 7.77 megabits per second down 2.59 megabits per second up. That is, makes you question why you even use an external antenna. And like I said, it's kind of weird because we're not really sure how the antennas interact with the phone. Is there a switch somewhere that I can go in the settings to change it? I don't know. Someone said there was, but never provided any information on how to do it. Someone says it's an automatic switch, and some say it's going to just choose the best of the two signals. Now what we're going to do is, for the sake of curiosity, we're going to connect the second FME connection into the R1 port, and we're going to see how that affects the phone. So we're going to go back to our network decibel meter here. And as you can see, we're still around the same. I mean, I can take the antenna and move it around, and it doesn't seem to do much. These connections at the back don't stay in very well, so I got to kind of keep my fingers placed on it just gently so that they don't fall out. And we're going to try another speed test with both of these connections in. So this time we averaged 10.26 megabits per second download and 0.43 megabits per second upload. That's interesting results, to say the least. So now, let's do the final test where we take the L1 connection out, keep the R1 connection in, and we'll go back to our network. So we're still around that right there, and we're going to do one more speed test. This is with the R1 connection only. So our download this time was 12.27 megabits per second, and our upload was 5.17 megabits per second. So what does that tell us? It tells us that you might as well just stick with the internal antenna. Based on the performance that I've seen, there doesn't appear to be any particular gains. Now that being said, I have been using this antenna all day, everywhere from inside my car, driving around, checking signals as I drive around, and I've used it in the house in various places. There was a point where I was downloading something and I was tethering to my computer, downloading a video game via Steam, and when I connected the antenna, my speeds almost doubled. When I disconnected it, it would go back down. But then I do controlled tests like this, and you can't notice much of a difference. So, long story short, it could be the antenna. Maybe this antenna is just not that great. There are other antennas you can get to work with this connection, and I'll show you. Because these two connectors right here go into this antenna like this. I believe it's a coax type cable, and you can change out the antenna with a different one. There's one from, I think it's called Wilson Electronics. Could be wrong. They also make an antenna with the same frequency bands as this. And another thing to note is maybe GSM and CDMA phones, their frequencies work better with this antenna than the other version. Who knows? I only have T-Mobile to test it with. The Sprint phone is here just because we have one laying around. We don't have Sprint service, unfortunately. So there's no way to test that. So it could be the antenna. It could be the phone itself versus this phone itself. Who knows? Fact of the matter is, you're risking damaging your phone for this concept. And for that reason, I really can't, in all honesty, recommend doing this. With such scattered information out there and no real explanation as to what everything does and how it does it, I mean, it's $45 for this antenna. It's like a few $100s for your phone. Do you really want to risk it? If so, I'd love to see someone else use the Wilson Electronics antenna and make a video of that, just to see how it stacks up. But until then, this is pretty much it. There's not much else to talk about. We've tested everything we can. With that being said, guys, thanks for watching. Hope it was informative. Hopefully this answers a few questions that people run into. And as always, I will see you next time. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, show your friends, check out my other videos. I got plenty of them. And Happy New Year.